Welcome to the Irish Farmers Journal Weekly Podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
Hello, Patrick Donoghue here, news editor with the Irish Farmers Journal. First, to the meeting of the inaugural Dairy Forum, which took place on Tuesday. The Dairy Forum is made up of processors, farming organisations, as well as the likes of Bord Bia and Ornua, who will meet occasionally to discuss key issues within the sector. My colleague Thomas Joubert spoke to IFA's dairy executive Catherine Esgress, who took part in the forum.
The meeting was convened by the Minister, and he invited all the stakeholders in the industry, so the co-ops, the farm organisations, Teagasc, the AHI, the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation, but also the banks, Enterprise Ireland and various other bodies who would have a vested interest in the dairy sector. The agenda was a twofold agenda. Firstly, a look at the current market situation and perhaps a slightly longer term outlook. And the second item was really a focus on volatility and what can and must be done to assist farmers in dealing with the impact of volatility on their income. So what was said, I suppose, in the first instance in presenting the market, Bernard Conlon from Ornua told us what I suspect most people around the table would have already known, which is that markets are in a difficult position right now, but with some positive indicators in terms of GDT increases, in terms of various prices picking up. At the same time, some concern around demand in particular, with China and Russia being still off the market, with exceedingly low oil revenues actually causing problems for some of our normal customers who would rely on those revenues to buy on the marketplace. And as I said, I think that's something that all of us would be only too familiar with. So the focus of the discussion became very, very quickly and importantly the issue of volatility and how that can be dealt with.
So there are a number of solutions on the table, but some of them are long-term, like maybe changing the way suppliers and processors relate to each other with longer-term fixed-price contracts or any forms of hedging. Is there any agreement between the participants of the Dairy Forum on the way forward there?
Well, I suppose the Minister who did most of the talking around the table would have focused very strongly on the concept of fixed price and, more to the point, fixed margin contracts, such as the ones developed by Glanbia as long ago as 5 years ago. Then this would be their fifth this year. And I think the comment was passed reasonably that while the Glanbia contract is very well developed and a number of other cooperatives have brought in kind of similar contracts in more recent times, too few farmers have been exposed or have been given a chance to understand how this can actually work to their advantage. So there's a big part of education and a big part of greater engagement required by industry as a whole to try and develop more of those types of contracts. There was also a discussion around the concept of maybe other forms of hedging. And I think there's a lot of complex issues in the background in terms of how futures markets can interact and so on, which can be a little bit off-putting because when you're dealing with futures markets, you're dealing with financial products. And there would be the understandable worry that if you go down that road, you could be introducing a third party whose motivation within the transaction mightn't be to the best interest of the industry.
We were talking about traders and the risk of speculation.
Absolutely, but I think that's probably something that can be worked and is being worked in the likes of the US in a very different way. For example, if you're a milk supplier in Dairy America, I think they're called now, they used to be called Dairy Farmers of America, you can actually choose to either take the price today or to fix a price for 3 months ahead, for example. And the basis for that price offered for 3 months ahead is basically Dairy Farmers of America utilising the futures markets in the US to make that option available to farmers. So the farmer doesn't have to interact or understand or take any risk on the futures markets. The cooperative actually does the development of the product that is then available to the farmer. So, but I think there's a long way to go in developing those types of solutions. There's a lot of investigating and exploration required. And I think one of the positives that I would see from the Dairy Forum is that, I think the Minister is quite determined to pressing on all the stakeholders to engage more actively with all those concepts in the best interest of farmers in the finish.
Now, in the short term, there's this help package from the EU, of which 13 and something million is coming to Ireland. Your organisation, the IFA, others, the ICMSA, are asking for the government here to match this with the same amount. Did you get a response on that?
We didn't get a total response to it. We were told by the Minister that he was awaiting a response from the EU Commission. The EU Commission has already stated that it envisaged that Member States may decide to top up those targeted aids, but it's indeed the fact that Member States have to engage with the Commission to actually carry out this particular process. So I would take the understanding from that it is the Minister's intention to try and do something, but we certainly wouldn't have had any confirmation or guarantee as to what he will do. I think it would be only wise to match it, in that it's a relatively small amount of money. If you were to take this amount, which is 13.7 million, and assume that there would be no additional national funds added to it, and if you were to divide it up equally among all the dairy and pig farmers it is targeted to, you would pay something in the region of €760 per farmer. And at a time when farmers are looking at big tax bills, big super levy bills, all sorts of other bills and repayments in the bank, it's not unwelcome, but it's not going to get very far. So matching it, I think, would make a considerable difference to that. And I think the other element which would assist with immediate cash flow, and this was committed to very solidly by the Minister, is the ability to increase the advance payment of both the basic payment and the rural development payments.
And has there been any progress on how to divide up these 13.7 million in terms of a flat rate? Every farmer gets the same thing, or any other options?
We would have put across our preferred option, which we believe to be the fairest, the quickest, and the one that will be least wasteful in terms of delay and in terms of administration cost. And it is to very simply match the funds and then divide them up among the number of farmers, so that the same cheque goes to a very large producer as to a very small producer, and the very small producer gets a comparatively greater benefit from the cheque in question. The funds, we understand, have to be dispersed by the end of the year, so there isn't a lot of time to devise all sorts of clever things to do with what is in the finish a relatively limited amount of money.
Final question. The banks were there, as you mentioned. That's another part of the short-term needs, cash flow. Was there good engagement with the banks on how to help farmers go through the difficult patch at the moment?
Certainly there would have been told very strongly from our side of the table and from the Minister's side of the table that it is important that they would engage with farmers for the short term, particularly next spring, perhaps next spring more so than right now. Because the banks would tell you at this stage that they're not particularly concerned about overdraft facilities, they're not particularly concerned about the financial situations of farmers. But that's going to change because a lot of the bills are falling due over the next number of weeks, and because when you look at the situation next spring, most dairy farmers will have much reduced milk cheques, because their constituents will be lower, because the volumes in the early stages at least would be lower. So it'll be a much more challenging time. So they were very much and very forcibly urged to look at the situation, to stay with farmers, to stay closely in touch with their customers coming up to next spring. For the longer term, they were also urged to play their full part in this whole volatility issue by providing flexible finance which is competitively priced, because again that would be a concern for farmers that they're paying over the odds for finance in Ireland currently compared to what some of their colleagues around Europe might be doing, and that they would also provide flexible finance to the extent that, as required, if your income falls below a certain level or if the price falls below a certain level, that you would trigger automatically, without recosting or renegotiating the loan, you would trigger maybe a payment holiday or an interest-only payment period. There has been some effort by some banks to develop products around that, but there's a huge need for more of the same and for greater engagement, I think, with farmers to keep in closer touch with them, because I think the cash flow is going to be the biggest issue over the coming months, and particularly next spring.
All right, Catherine, thank you very much. There's a lot to be followed up on for future meetings of the Dairy Forum, and a lot covered in this week's Irish Farmers Journal and at farmersjournal.ie. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Irish Farmers Journal podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
2 weeks to go until Finance Minister Michael Noonan addresses the nation for Budget 2016. This week in Dublin I spoke to politicians as they met representatives of the IFA during their lobbying session ahead of the budget. First I asked Heather Humphreys, Minister of Arts, Heritage and the Gaeltacht, what she was taking away from the IFA's pre-budget lobby day.
Well, they have outlined a number of issues there in terms of the suckler cow herd, the beef data and genomics programme. There's issues around that need to be addressed, that said. And also they were concerned that on the knowledge transfer programme that not enough of the 15 million funding that's available there maybe is getting to farmers, and also they're concerned, not concerned, but they raised the issue of the need to continue on with the stamp duty relief for the young trained farmers. Also, an issue is around the forestry income in terms of people who have planted forests maybe 40 years ago. It all comes in one big lump sum, say whatever, 80,000, and they want the taxation of that to be treated, that it needs to be averaged out over a number of years because it has been a long-term investment. And there was a number of other issues as well they raised, but that's generally
and
it.
Sitting around the cabinet table, is there anything that farmers can expect or should be looking forward to in the budget?
Well, look at all of these issues have been raised with the Minister for Finance, and I'm sure, and I have no doubt that he will take, he has been listening to farmers, and we not really, no discussion has been on the budget yet, to date. So, but I've no doubt that the Minister for Finance will take on board a number of the issues that have been raised by the farmers, because we're all very conscious of the huge contribution that farming, agriculture makes to our economy.
Then I spoke to Paul Keogh, Government Chief Whip, about what farmers could expect from the next budget.
Simon Coveney will have a number of proposals and announcements behind the capital and the budget on the 13th of October. But he is very conscious of an important role that agriculture has played in the Irish economy over the last number of years, and giving something back to the farmers. I know we had the beef scheme that was recently announced, and with every announcement and every scheme that is there, it's almost, it's not always the perfect scheme, but you're able to tailor after a while when you do sit down with farmers and negotiate with farmers, see what they want, and you try to keep as many as content and happy as possible in that. But like last week I seen at the ploughing match, there's one thing about farmers, and you hear farmers and speak to farmers, whatever money they make, they reinvest it back into their enterprise, and that's something that I admire about farmers. And maybe they often can invest maybe and be too ambitious for themselves, and like we've seen the whole thing, the dairy thing. But look, I applaud farmers for that, because they want to move on, they want to move forward. And like when you see how farmers have come more equipped now over the last number of years, and especially the younger farmers, when they come out of college, they're far better equipped in IT and everything like that. And there's an awful lot of schemes, I believe, that the Department of Agriculture can help. There's one thing that plays a very important role in the whole thing, and that's the knowledge box, as I say, and farmers educating farmers. And I think that's something the department has to be very aware of, because there's an awful lot of farmers out there that are in their 50s and 60s and 70s that mightn't have the same education what a 20 or 30 or 35 young under 40, and the only way that they can become aware of farming practices is through the whole area of the knowledge box and interest groups and things like that. So I think that is something the department has to be very much aware of.
Finally, Micheál Martin, leader of Fianna Fáil, gave me his priorities for our farming budget.
The most important point we've been making is the need to ensure that the primary producer gets a fair price, and that there does need to be an independent statutory mechanism to ensure that happens, and to ensure greater transparency in terms of the degree to which the various stakeholders in the food chain, what they actually get out of the ultimate price that the consumer pays. And it's very clear that the primary producer has been squeezed consistently over a long period of time, and I think that issue needs to be addressed. Secondly, we would be interested obviously in facilitating and encouraging and incentivising young farmers to continue in farming and to develop modern production techniques. Thirdly, that we protect production in terms of the climate issue, and therefore that we look at, and there was an interesting presentation there made to me by the Cork farmers in terms of anaerobic digestion, solar power on farms, the need to incentivise participation by farmers in the other renewables, not just wind but other renewables, and also then in terms of afforestation, that there's issues that are now arising in terms of afforestation and how income from it is treated, in order to facilitate reinvestment in afforestation. And they're the more intelligent ways, I think, of dealing with the climate change challenges down the line, because climate abatement is important. Forestry, I still believe, always have believed, is probably the most potent weapon we have in order to meet our obligations in terms of the environment and in terms of climate change.
We hope that you're enjoying this Irish Farmers Journal podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy. Find out more at farmersjournal.ie.
Looking back at the National Ploughing Championships last week, Amy Fitzgibbon met the youngest judge in the National Championship, Conor McKeown, and he's only 15.
I'm here with Conor McKeown, a ploughing championship judge from County Louth. Conor's only 15. Conor, is this your first year judging the ploughing?
It'll be my second year at the All-Ireland, kind of out on the plots.
And do you plough yourself?
No, I'll be playing next year. I have to be 16 legally, so...
Oh, I see, okay.
I do a bit at home, but not competitions.
Do you enjoy the ploughing?
Oh, I love it, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be like my highlight of the year, so...
Your highlight of the year?
Yeah.
You're only one generation of judges from the same family judging the ploughing this year, is that right?
My granda, my uncles, and then myself, so there's three.
Okay, and how did you get into it?
Granda's been at it 52 years now, and kind of just carried on into everyone, so...
And what makes a good ploughman?
The skill of it and mainly the skill of it.
And you know, obviously you're a judge yourself, what are you looking for?
The straightness is the main thing, and then uniformity, that all the sods are the same, and then we control that all the trash or like stubble is covered up, so if your ploughing is opened up with holes in it, that wouldn't be good, and weed control.
Yeah.
This is grass or will grow back up through it, and weeds, so you're looking for that. Good packing as well.
Good packing the soil.
It's good firm to walk on, and there's loads of flesh, as they call it, soil made available.
And do you have to test the soil at all, or is it just visual examination?
Just visual, and then walking through it as well is the main thing.
And do you do also the horse ploughing, or is it just the tractors?
No, just mainly tractors, the conventional.
And what do you think the horse ploughing should?
It's so fashion, yeah, you're interested in it or you're not.
But you're not interested in it?
No, not really, no.
And what kind of a farm are you from?
Tillage farm.
You want to stay on the farm?
I hope to stay on it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. And what do your friends think of you being down here as a judge? Do they come down and visit you?
The friends are staying there on Tuesday, so grand there, and they don't really. No one gets ploughing itself. They think we're just out. They all think it's the quicker you do it, the better. You're nearly wrong. You're nearly going slow and taking your time to get it right.
How long would it take to plough like a field like this?
They're plotted to have, I think, 2.5 hours.
And how many acres would that be?
An acre.
2.5 hours, right? And so slow and steady is the better way.
Is the better way, yeah.
And did you get a day off school now today?
I have the whole week off.
Lucky you. Okay, thanks for speaking to me, Conor.
Oh, that's grand.
The Irish Farmers Journal weekly podcast, brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.
Looking forward to the 29th of October and the Women in Agriculture Conference, which is organised by Irish Country Living. Journalists Ciara Leahy and Mary Phelan have all the details of Women in Ag.
Here in Irish Country Living, we say September might be about the ploughing, but October is all about women in agriculture. We put the tickets on sale last week at the ploughing, and already we've had amazing numbers. If you're interested in this conference, we really recommend that you get your tickets fast, because we sell out every year. We have waiting lists, everything like that. So really it is important to get in fast. Just a bit of background about our Women in Agriculture Conference. We started it 8 years ago. This is our 8th year doing it. The first year was just, about meeting our readers and, really talking to them about what they want from a conference. And, the thing that came across that first year when we researched before the conference was, they want to be recognised. They want their role to be recognised. And that has been the message that we have built on every year, year after year, and it has kept on getting bigger and bigger. And it's all about, giving our readers, most importantly, a day out to, farming can be isolating, it can be lonely. It's a great day to meet other women that are in the same situation as you, bounce ideas off each other, have the chats. It's a great social occasion, but it's also an informative day where we give you information about farming, but also about your health and your mindfulness.
Okay, and last year we had a gala dinner the night before. What's planned this year? Is it something similar?
Well, yeah, we are doing the gala dinner again this year, but we're giving it a different approach again. I suppose what we kept on getting back from our feedback from our audience was that they wanted more from the conference. So they wanted 2 days. So what we decided was that we'd do our full day conference and a dinner the evening before. We thought, maybe you'll have 60, 70 women at it. We had nearly 300 women attend the dinner the night before. The atmosphere in the room was absolutely electric. And this year what we're actually doing is we're tying it in with our Women in Agriculture Awards. So we're presenting the winners of our competition that we ran earlier this year, and showcasing the very best that can be done on farms across the country. We're also adding a little extra entertainment. Again, this is something that we got back from women. We want a fashion show, so we're giving them a fashion show. I literally I've just confirmed McElhenney's and Athboy are dressing 10 of our readers. It is going to be show-stopping, and we know that it is going to have everyone up off their seats. It is going to be fantastic.
Wow, that sounds amazing. But I mean, there's more. I mean, what can we expect from this year's conference? I mean, I know just from hearing around the office, there's a stellar lineup of speakers.
Yeah,
for
I have
the day
to.
itself.
We really put a lot of work and thought and effort into our agenda for the day. And this year I'm really, really excited what we have. Opening the conference is going to be Minister Coveney, and it's a great opportunity for him to be telling us about what's going to be going on, in regards to the government and agriculture over the next year. We have a really different session this year. It's called On the Couch. It's kind of inspired by the Web Summit, where you have, instead of you get people up doing a presentation, we're going to have 3 women sitting around with a cup of tea, basically chatting to our former editor Matt Dempsey about what it's like in their business. We have 3 amazing women. We have Mary Flavin from Flavin's 8th generation business. We have Colette Toomey from Clonakilty Black Pudding, the only woman in the world that actually has the full recipe for Clonakilty Black Pudding.
Wow,
yeah,
that's impressive.
Yeah, and we also have Mary Sadler from Cool Swan, a brilliant company that's really built themselves from
I
the
love
bottom
a bit
up.
of Cool Swan.
Yeah, exactly.
Fab.
So we have those 3 ladies speaking in the morning, and definitely the morning of the conference is very much focused on agriculture and the farm business, and that element comes out very clearly during the morning. Our afternoon session is more about mindfulness and your health, and we have some brilliant speakers. We have Dr. Aoife Hearn from Operation Transformation. She's going to be talking about nutrition. We have Evelyn O'Rourke from RTE, an amazing woman who found out 4 days after she was pregnant that she had breast cancer. It's an amazing story.
That's crazy.
I interviewed her earlier this year, and I have to say, out of 8 years in the Farmers Journal interviewing people, she blew me away. And I know she's going to be an absolutely amazing speaker. And our keynote speaker, a lady who our readers have been asking about for a long time, is Majella O'Donnell, who also is going to be absolutely fantastic. She's our front cover this week in Irish Country Living.
Yes, you've met her on several occasions. I mean, what do you think the audience can expect from Majella? They've high expectations, but she'll certainly deliver, won't she?
Absolutely. If you could sum up Majella's talk in one word, it's uplifting. This woman has seriously met some challenges in her life. She had a marriage breakdown. She had breast cancer. She suffers from depression still. But her outlook on life is so positive. She said to me that she learned years ago that while she was going through her marriage breakdown, she said that, a light switch went off when she was, reading self-help books, that you have to take responsibility for your own role. She said her mindset was always about the victim, about what other people were doing, how it was poor me, and what he did affected me. And she said, I had to stand up and say, right, the only person in this that is responsible for my own actions is me. Really, every time when I listened to her speak, I just knew that her message was going to resonate with our audience so much, and I really think she is going to be a showstopper. I think overall we have a great lineup for the day. So to sum up, Mary, our Women in Agriculture conference takes place on the 29th of October. That's a Thursday. Our gala dinner is the Wednesday night. Our tickets are fantastic value at €50. All the details on Irish Country Living, and it's in the Knightsbrook and Trim, a fantastic hotel. That
with easy access.
It is so easy to get to. You're not going to be going through a lot of roundabouts, and there's plenty of parking, so there's no issues around that.
Great, Ciara. Looking forward to it.
Thanks.
The Irish Farmers Journal podcast, online at farmersjournal.ie, on the Irish Farmers Journal app, and on iTunes every Thursday. Brought to you by Ornua, the home of Irish dairy.